All right, how's it going, friends and family? I hope you don't mind that my face is not on the screen. Today was supposed to be my rest day, but lo and behold, UnitedHealth reported their earnings, and they're in the red by 20%. So I was like, okay, I'll film a video. So it's going to be a laid-back environment, but I'm also going to be telling you what's going on. I'll give you some commentary on how the earnings went, and an updated look into the future price target. And then towards the end of the video, I'll be going over my game plan, whether I'm going to sell or if I'm going to hold. So if you take a look at what's going on with UnitedHealth, year to date, they were doing pretty well, right? They reached a high of about like 356, but after the earnings, they crashed pretty hard. If you zoom out 5 years, you can see that they're pretty much headed towards the same direction that they were last year in July and August. To be honest with you, 250 might be the next pit stop. They might even hit 200 a share. I know, not exactly what you want to hear, but based on how reactional and emotional the market's behaving towards UnitedHealth, I mean, going down 20% in a single trading day when the market cap is over $250 billion, who is to say they're not going to punish them even further? Right? All right, so what exactly happened? So, to be transparent with you, everything that could go wrong went wrong. And between you and me, that's the pickle when investing in individual stocks. You invest with the expectations of business as usual, right? Things just going, as intended, without any crazy setbacks, headwinds, or tsunamis or earthquakes like here in Japan. But in the case of UnitedHealth, when the government slaps them in the face, the stock's going to sell off. To survive, UnitedHealth, they're going to be doing the unthinkable. They're making the deliberate actions right now to shrink. Yes, they're going to cut back, and their total addressable market, they're intentionally going to let customers go in order to increase their margins. The estimate right now is about 3 million customers are going to lose their business relationship with UnitedHealth, which means those customers are going to have to jump to Humana, Cigna, CVS, whatever. And for the first time in 30 years, the forecast for this year, the revenue is going to drop year over year. That's the first time in 30 years the top line is not going to grow. But it makes sense, right? They're dropping 3 million customers. So, when you think about it, it's a brutal addition by subtraction play. They're betting that by becoming a more nimble, lean, AI-driven tech company, they're going to win the long game. But for investors like you and I, the ones that are holding the bag, dude, that long game, it hurts in the short run, right? So that means in 2026, if you're paying attention, their total revenue is going to decrease. That's the cat's out of the bag, and that's why the market's, smashing their knees in with baseball bats. On the flip side of that, their margins and free cash flow, it's supposed to go up. So let's look at the details. What do I mean by the government slapped them in the face? Well, the government today, they proposed that they're only going to be increasing the Medicare payout rate by 0.09%. So when you think about it, that's pretty much flat year over year. The expectation was at least 5%. Now, the final Medicare reimbursement rates, it's supposed to go down in April. So there's time between now and April for the health insurance companies and their lobby groups to try to bridge that gap. So who knows what that final number is going to look like, right? It might be 2%, 3%, 4%. We don't know. But the thing that we do know is that medical costs are going up in line with inflation, which means that UnitedHealth's going to have to pay more per procedure or operation than before, while only getting the same amount of money from the government. So, you can see why this was a big blow, right? Here's the thing, dude. The current party in power, okay, they're making my military stocks soar, okay? They're up in the green by like triple digits, and I love it. On the other end, Dude, they're killing me with their stance on Medicare, Medicaid, and trying to cut costs in the realm of health insurance. But anyway, circling back to the government and UnitedHealth, here, let me try to paint the example from my understanding. I could be wrong, but this is how I think it works, okay? So the government pays UnitedHealth a set amount of money per month for every senior that's enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan with UnitedHealth. So just to make it simple, okay, we're going to assume it's $1,000 a month from the government to help cover all of the senior citizens' health care costs for that particular month. Doesn't matter if they use it all or they don't. So let's go ahead and say that the senior citizen, they only use $800 in services for that month. That means UnitedHealth's going to pocket the $200 as profit. Now, that's in a perfect world where things are working as intended. And then they can use that $200 to expand the business, to improve their operations, to further their R&D and whatnot. But when you reduce the profits that a health insurance company takes home, it makes the entire operation hairy and sticky. And think about it like this. If the senior citizen has a heart attack and accrues, $100,000 for that month, because the emergency room visit, the open heart surgery and everything, UnitedHealth's going to be on the hook for that bill, and the government's not going to send any extra money. So I definitely think there's a flaw in the system of how it works. Anywho, as it stands right now, UnitedHealth, they're only going to get an increase of 0.09% per person. To put that in perspective, the reason why they were banking on at least, at a minimum, a 5% increase year over year is because they disclosed on their earnings call that according to their math, they're expecting that medical costs are going to go up by 10%. Best case scenario. It could go as high as like 12, 14%. So the gap isn't just a number on a spreadsheet, friends and family. It means that UnitedHealth, they're going to have to eat the massive cost of medical inflation while hospitals continue to upcharge for every single aspirin, MRI scan, or whatever, okay? And think about it. Medical costs go up because the nurses' salaries go up, the hospital's overhead cost goes up, and the equipment they use, right? The price for that also goes up. But it doesn't go up for the health insurance company, so it makes no sense to me, okay? I get the whole Doge philosophy of cutting the fat and finding efficiency and trying to be optimized. I get it, okay? But when efficiency means neglecting our most vulnerable population, dude, I don't care what your political beliefs are, that's crossing the line. Cutting funding here, it doesn't just hurt UnitedHealth stock and the shareholders like you and I, it also creates a wall of friction for the actual human that's trying to see a doctor. Because now they're going to have to run into UnitedHealth pushing back saying, oh, we might not be able to cover this because they're running out of funding, right? So I think the optics about going after all of this is just plain wrong. And I remember not too long ago, like a year or two ago, they were also thinking about, when I say they, I'm talking about the party in power, they were also thinking about going after the Social Security paychecks as well. Dude, I've got an elderly grandparent in the US, or I guess both of them are elderly at this point, they're over the age of 80. Dude, they rely on those Social Security paychecks in order to survive, right? They paid into it for like 40 years. And the fact that there were talks of decreasing it or even getting rid of it altogether, dude, it makes me so mad when people don't find any trouble to just throw away our senior citizens and disregard them in their final years. So when Doge wants to talk about efficiency, dude, this is not it. You can cut the costs and funding in other areas, but health insurance? Come on, dude, it's betrayal and stripping our grandparents from living in dignity, right? I don't know, gets me really riled up and pissed off. Let me just go calm down real quick. Okay, so let's go over my investing thesis, right? So initially, I put in a ton of money into UnitedHealth because based on my understanding, it's the biggest player in our healthcare system. And just like GM Ford, just like Boeing, just like JP Morgan Chase, just like Intel, it's too big of a business to just let them fail, because that would have negative ramifications onto hospitals across the nation, right? So it's in the best interest of the US to preserve and help them out. Okay, so that's reason number one. Reason number two, I mean, we've already seen evidence of it last year, but AI is making them more efficient and is helping to increase their margins. The forecast for 2026 is that AI is going to help save them over $1 billion from automating tasks for their employees that would otherwise tie them up from doing those stupid number crunching stuff. Now they can allocate that time to doing other stuff that helps the business. And I guess the other thought process behind why I invested into them. Look, you can fact check me right now. About 10,000 people here in the US, they turn 65 years old every day. As a society, as a population, we're getting older and older because we're living longer. So unless the government wants to transition into doing a Medicare for all health insurance plan, they're gonna have to pay UnitedHealth to take care of the aging population. And so that's essentially why I invested into them. Now, obviously, I would love to see everyone be covered for their treatments, for their prescriptions, and all of that. Okay, that's what I want in my heart. But I also understand that UnitedHealth, at the end of the day, it's a business. There's absolutely some cognitive dissonance going on. However, just like with my investing thesis with the military stocks, where a bulk of their revenue is money is contingent upon the government, I also thought that the government, as it has been for decades, would play along and help out the health insurance players, right? But as we're quickly learning, whoever's in office, it drastically changes the landscape for sectors and industries. For some, they're going to thrive, right? Like oil and gas, military stocks in general, the banks. And other industries, they're going to suffer. Mainly the food CPG stocks like General Mills, Conagra, Flowers Foods, because the current admin is going to war with food, right? Another industry that's suffering is what we're talking about right now. Health insurance stocks across the board, right? Humana, Elevance, Molina, UnitedHealth, dude, they're all getting crushed. But on that note, the earnings, it wasn't all negative, right? Their pharmacy business, that revenue went up by 16% year over year, and the guidance for their bottom line this year is actually bullish, and it's supposed to grow because they're going to optimize their operations by jumping ship from the markets. Like, say like you're making money, but it might not be good quality money. Does that make sense? If you're going to be losing money in order to make money, it doesn't really make too much sense in the long run. And so they're dropping those markets. Only time will tell whether or not their game plan's going to pan out, but I think it's pretty similar to what Altria is doing. Okay, so let's take a look at their stock price pattern the past 5 years. It's in the green by 50%. So if you break it down, it's like 10% year over year. And I say that Altria reminds me of UnitedHealth because right now, if you take a look at their financials, their revenue should be dropping year over year for the past 3.5 to 4 years. And that's because they're not trying to grow the revenue anymore by chasing loss-making markets and doing endeavors where the quality of the revenue is going to be bad. Like the cost of revenue, the cost to do business is just not smart. So instead, they're only making good money. And so if I scroll down and show you how that pans out in terms of their bottom line per share, look at the increase from 2022 to now, right? It's going from $3.19 to $5.24. So by making the business more profitable and leaning into a better P&L, it's working out for Altria. Now, deep down inside, I thought that was a kind of a dumb plan, but it's been working out for my Altria position. So if it's working for Altria, a very old, established and mature dividend compounder with cheese, then I think UnitedHealth, I think it's going to work out for them as well. And I think that drop off in the revenue, to be honest with you, I hope it's not a continuing trend next year, but it might be. Like I talked about in the past, I think UnitedHealth, they're in sticky waters until the transition of this administration. I think when things stabilize and things are normal again, when we're not having tariff wars every other day, where the entire European continent hates us, and because you have to admit, right, with the current administration, things have been so volatile and so out of norm. When things go back to normal, I think UnitedHealth's going to be back to normal as well. But that's at a minimum of at least 3 years from now, right? Or maybe the hostility from the admin will change, but we don't know, okay? And to give you an adjusted and an updated price target for UnitedHealth, because they made adjustments in their guidance and forecast. So for fiscal year of 2025, their bottom line per share came in at $13.19. It's pretty bad, guys. It's a drastic drop off year over year. And that's because in Q4 of 2025, it came in at only 1 penny. So when we talk about their margins are being squeezed right now, I'm not exaggerating. And the government does not want to help them out at all or help compensate. So that's what I'm saying. The current admin's not an ally for the health insurance space. But anyways, based on their current forecast and guidance for 2026, on a GAAP basis, their bottom line per share should finish out the year at $17. And I'm thinking that the market's going to be spooked out and bearish about UnitedHealth going forward. So worst case scenario, I do think there's more room to drop. I mean, right now we saw the stock hit like 290, 280, 256 worst case scenario. Obviously, it could go down even further, like $200. But when it's all said and done, I think December 31st, I think 256 up to like 342. And then as we fast forward, this is what, as a long-term investor, I want to focus on, right? In 2028, 2029, I am still seeing that UnitedHealth somewhere around $600. Like if this, I don't know. Obviously, it's a long time to wait, but in 2026, dude, I'm not trying to say that I'm a genie in a bottle, but based on the math and the numbers that I'm seeing, it's going to be a painful 2026. I'm just going to say that straight up, okay? Now let's quickly talk about my game plan. So at one point, I think on Friday of last week, I was in the green by like $3,100 with UnitedHealth. I woke up today and now I'm only in the green by $600 and some change. All of my gains were wiped out basically overnight. So what am I going to do? Now, before I just rush into that, I mean, I'll explain my thought process, right? Remember, I'm not trying to preach to people and tell you what to do, okay? It's just my thought process. So the most important organ when it comes to the stock market, most people think it's the brain. Like, you got to be smart in order to make money. And I would argue even a dumb person can make a ton of money in the stock market. You just have to understand, is this a really good business and is it on sale, meaning undervalued? You do that enough times, you're going to be okay and successful in the stock market. But even really smart people, I'm not exaggerating, lawyers, doctors, engineers, AI data scientists, it doesn't matter. They lose a crap ton of money because of the stomach. So that's the most important organ. Can you stomach the volatility when invested into a high-quality compounder? At the end of the day, their numbers and fundamentals are still intact. Obviously, their margins are squeezed. Yes, their profitability is not looking too hot, but I think that's a temporary storm. Now, I'll ask that question again. Can you stomach the volatility when invested into a high-quality compounder? UnitedHealth's not a company that's free cash flow negative. It's not a company that's cutting their dividend. I mean, for crying out loud, the payout ratio is still at 45%, even after the diabolical earnings, right? The dividend is still sustainable. Now, I might offend some feelings, but this is a reflection that I went through myself and how I feel about myself, okay? A man that cannot control his temper, his urges, or his emotional regulation is an animal. And I'm talking to myself right now, okay? A man should be able to think logically and calm down in situations where usually idiots would react out of anger or anxiety or just bark back, right? A man should be able to stay calm and make calculated decisions. Case in point, it's not just UnitedHealth, right? That's why I'm saying in the context of high-quality compounders, even Meta goes on massive sell-offs. Even NVIDIA goes on massive sell-offs. Amazon, Microsoft, they all experience dips, corrections. and their stock prices go down 15-20%. The key thing, though, is if I panic sell, then I lose the money. Now, I'm not trying to say past performance is indicative of future gains, but usually with high-quality businesses, with due time, they recover, right? Like with Meta, dude, they dropped off a rock, right? In 2022, I actually jumped in and bought a crap ton at about like $88, $87 a share. Look what happened. Eventually, they did recover, right? I'm not trying to say UnitedHealth's going to follow suit because UnitedHealth's landscape and the headwinds that they're facing are strictly due to the hostility of the government, okay? So it's a different battle that they're fighting. If you just zoom out, I mean, up until the current administration took office, for UnitedHealth, dude, it's been a smooth, steady, reliable, predictable growth in their stock price year after year. It's just in the past year and a half, they've been getting, dude, they're literally put in a headlock right now, and the current admin is punching them in the face, and the ref's saying, stop it, he's already knocked out, and they just keep punching UnitedHealth. Even though past performance is not indicative of future gains, if it's an unprofitable business that's a cash-burning dumpster fire, they're not going to recover. So I guess when it comes to UnitedHealth, I think with day traders and folks that are new to the stock market, to be honest with you, if you're panicking and freaking out about what's happening today, it makes total sense. Okay? I'll be completely frank with you. When I woke up and I took a look at what happened, even for me, for a good 8 to 10 minutes, I felt so sad. I was like, oh my gosh, what in the hemoglobin is happening on? And then I started thinking about it more logically and looking at the facts instead of just this, negative 20%. Instead of just looking at that, I started to read and I tuned in to the earnings call to figure out, is this actually that bad? It's bad for the short term, but I think the roadmap, the long-term game plan, I think it makes sense. So I'm not trying to say that I can predict the future, but if I had to make an educated guess of what's going to happen just for fun, I think in a few weeks we'll be back up to 300 a share, and then they'll slowly climb in their valuation heading into their next earnings. Having said that, I think in the next few days or up to the next week, I do see them dropping further into the red. I'm not joking when I say that they're going to retest $250, $230, even $200 a share. But for the long run, I mean, we just saw my homework, and obviously I could be wrong. I'm never going to sit here and tell you that I know what's going to happen or that I'm 100% right. I don't know. Think about it. Why would I put about 20% of my net worth into UnitedHealth if they were going to drop by 20%? I didn't know, right? And that's why you want to do your calculation, your analysis, your research, and your homework to see, do the financials and fundamentals point in the direction that it's a good quality company? And it is a good quality company at the end of the day. The facts are still there. The investing thesis is still intact. It's the biggest healthcare provider in the U.S., and everything's still there. It's just, I guess this is a really good learning lesson for me that who you vote into office has dire consequences as an investor, right? You have to see eye to eye with whatever they like and want to promote. So in hindsight, maybe I should have gone balls deep into energy stocks, right? But anyways, I don't want to think too negative. So for the long run, I'm seeing them trading sideways in 2026. So I'm thinking we might stay around this territory for a while. And I feel like maybe we can penetrate 350, 360 if the reimbursement rates somehow become 5 or 6% in April. That's when the final decision is going to be made about the Medicare payment plan from the government. It's just, I don't know. I just think it's so unfortunate that the current admin is so hostile to the health insurance business. And on that note, let me just talk about it, okay? I know a lot of people associate UnitedHealth as being evil. They need to be taken down. But, dude, I think about it from the other side of the equation, right? Without health insurance, how do you think people would pay for their treatments, prescriptions, and surgeries? Do you think they're going to be able to afford that out of pocket? No. The next people would be the banks, and they would hand out loans that are crazy, right? It would be the exact same situation as mortgages and student loans, but on steroids. So, I mean, I think the healthcare system in the U.S. is broken, and we need reform. Top down, left to right, we need to fix it. But as it stands right now, like, if you allow the health insurance companies to suffer and fail, dude, that permeates into everybody, and we are all going to struggle, right? Because they're going to want to preserve their margins, and that means more people's claims are going to be denied. It's a bad situation, right? Now, maybe in a perfect world, hospitals would charge us a fair rate for services rendered, right? But that's not going to happen. And I don't know, maybe in a perfect world, the government would pay for our health insurance instead of us having to pay, premiums, out-of-pocket deductibles, and everything else. It's just like, it's crazy, right? I mean, I'm glad that it's capped and we don't have to pay more than, I don't know, 10 or 15 grand or 20 grand, depending on what your plan is. But it would be nice if the government did foot that bill. But they don't, right? So that's why we need companies like UnitedHealth, Humana, Cigna. And the fact that the government doesn't want to pay, but they also want to let them fail, dude, it's so backwards. And so when it comes to my game plan, I thought about this methodically, and I'm like, I think if they go below $250 a share, I think I'm going to dollar cost average here and there. Not too much, because it already makes up such a huge portion of my portfolio. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit tight. If they bounce around 280, I'm not going to buy more shares, but that's what I'm going to do. The reason being is that my investing thesis has always been $600 in a matter of 3 to 4 years. So I don't feel like selling right now. Now, obviously, I could change my mind. I could just sell, be happy with my $680, whatever profits, and walk away. But I don't know. I just feel like selling right now while everyone's reactional and emotional might be stupid. Right? Because the last time that happened, I'm sure there were people that panic sold at 230 and then they eventually recovered, and it's like, oh shoot, why did I sell? So I'll monitor them, right? I do think they're going to fall further. I do think that. I mean, so it's going to suck. So I'm not going to be looking at UnitedHealth for the next few days. I'm not. I'm really not. So I guess I'll put like a buy order in with a limit of like 250, and we'll see, right? We'll go from there. Now, I want to end this video by saying, do not follow me into this. This video is not financial advice. Let me learn my lesson the hard way, okay? I make these videos to share with you my journey and what I'm doing in the stock market. I'm not making these videos to pump stocks or to recommend stocks. I'm not doing that, dude. I barely get 200, 500, 1,000 views a video if I'm lucky. I don't have that kind of pull, okay? I'm just doing it because it's basically what I would be doing anyway, so why not just film my thought process and my experience with people, right? So having said that, nobody should copy what I'm doing. As a matter of fact, let's extend that to everything else, right? Be careful with what you do in life and always have a game plan. Understand why you buy into something and when you plan on selling. And that's not financial advice, that's just amigo to amigo wisdom. Now, for me, if their business model fundamentally changes, they're dethroned as being the biggest provider, and health insurance, the landscape changes drastically. I'm not talking about just the 0.09% reimbursement rate. Okay, whatever. All right? I'm talking about a big change. Like if they cut their dividend, I'm jumping out. Okay, I'm talking about something like that. Other than that, I'm sitting tight. Now, having said that, what are you guys doing? No, obviously it sucks, okay? I'm right there with you. And I'm also in the red with the trade desk. And that's a really bad thing about my personality. I always focus on my losers and on the negative. Whereas with my other stocks, dude, I'm crushing and I'm killing it. But I just have this weird trait where I don't like to brag about my winners and stuff. I always just focus and talk about the losers. So if this is like your first time listening to me, you probably think I'm the biggest idiot, which I agree, I am an idiot. But overall, I'm still crushing in 2026. It's just, I guess UnitedHealth and Trade Desk just sucks to see what's happening. And I think a part of that is because I really hate when people only focus on their winners and magically ignore or never talk about their losers. And so it appears on paper that they're only successful. And I feel like that's it rubs me the wrong way, and that's why I unsubscribed and unfollowed quite a few folks on social media, because all they do is brag about their winners. But I feel like I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum, and I only focus on my losers. So I gotta keep it balanced. I know, you're right. But anyways, I'm rambling. I love you guys. Stay safe. Good luck in the stock market, and I will talk to you next time. See ya.